At the class reunion, someone asked Willow, if you could choose again, would you pick George or Makoto? Her pretty face was slightly flushed, her eyes hazy with wine. She let out a soft sigh, a trace of melancholy passing through her expression. The old me had such a weak sense of worth, she said. I thought my background was too humble, that I would only hold Makoto back. That's why George's little displays of kindness so easily got a hold on me. Look at that. What a beautifully phrased confession. She truly is different now. I helped her grow. I gave her the safety net. I lifted her career up. And now that she's succeeded, she thinks her success comes entirely from her own effort. And what I gave her was nothing more than small favors. She believes she deserves something better. As for me, she doesn't understand. She said, I already married you. What more do you want? Chapter 1. Today is my birthday. I actually never planned to spend it with her, but she prepared a whole dinner and asked me what birthday wish I had. I pressed my fingertips against my eyebrows impatiently, blew out the candles perfunctorily, but still put my hands together devoutly and said, in a serious tone, I hope we can get divorced as soon as possible. One sentence froze Willow on the spot. The smile on her face, which wasn't bright to begin with, slowly faded. As expected, Willow threw another tantrum at me. She frowned and said, why are you still angry? I already came back. What else do you want from me? If you talk about divorce again, I'll take it seriously. I just felt exhausted. All these years, I've gotten used to it. When she gets mad, I have to coax her like crazy. But when I'm the one who gets angry, if I don't step down fast enough, I still end up being the one who has to soothe her. I looked at Willow. Her face was full of grievance. And yes, she did take a long flight back from Northern Europe just to see me. She spent the whole afternoon baking a cake for me and even cooked a full table of dishes by herself. She worked hard until now just to celebrate my birthday, and I didn't even bother to pick up a pair of chopsticks. Yes, that does make me look ungrateful. If this were in the past, and my wife did all this for my birthday, I would have been moved to death. If only she hadn't just spent a week traveling around Northern Europe with Makoto. I kept my eyes on hers and said expressionlessly, divorce. Divorce. I said divorce. Is that clear enough? If not, I can keep saying it. I'm begging you to take it seriously. Willow's expression turned completely cold. Her jaw tightened. Her lips turned pale from pressing them too hard. She stood up, and the chair scraped loudly backward. She said, George, do you think this is funny? I could have just not told you about this in the first place. She took several deep breaths, trying to calm herself down. Then she said, are you done or not? I rushed back just to celebrate your birthday with you. Forget it. Think whatever you want. I'm going to shower. You should cool off on your own. With that, she went upstairs without looking back. I glanced at the cake on the table and the still steaming dishes, genuinely confused. Why does she think that just because she came to celebrate my birthday and cooked a meal, I should be grateful like it's some huge favor? But when it's her birthday, no matter how much effort I put in or how many gifts I give her, if one thing isn't to her liking, she can flip her attitude instantly. Today, the guys had prepared great food, fine wine, and young beautiful models for me. I could have had a perfect birthday with them, but Willow's sudden appearance ruined it all. She was gentle and delicate, clinging to my arm as she said, hubby, I've come to take you home. Then she pulled me away. I didn't expose her act. In fact, I even kept a smile on my face and politely said goodbye to the guys. Not because I'm especially tolerant, but because I've been acting like a decent man for so long that I instinctively want to behave decently. Chapter 2. Willow was taking a shower upstairs. I leaned back on the sofa, smoking. The phone rang when I lit my second cigarette. It was Makoto calling. The ringtone lasted for half a minute. I just watched quietly and didn't answer. I pressed the cigarette out in the ashtray and poured myself a glass of alcohol. The phone rang again. Still Makoto. I tapped to answer and put it on speaker. Makoto's impatient voice came through. Where's Willow? Tell your wife to pick up the phone. I didn't respond and emptied my glass in one go. He said, George, say something. I know you're listening. Tell your wife to pick up. I need to talk to her. And then, stop wasting time. If her phone weren't turned off, do you think I'd be calling you? His voice was full of barely contained anger. I replied calmly, she's in the shower. Then I asked, what is it? Makoto fell silent. A few seconds later, he burst out cursing. Just how fucking repressed are you? You're racing against the clock like this. Is the only thing in your brain sex? Absolute loser. His words actually made me laugh. I said, I sleep with my own wife. It's legal. No cop can do anything about it. What exactly is your problem? I added with a laugh. Or are you upset because you want her to stay purer for you? He snapped. Bullshit. Then he said, maybe Willow is a precious goddess in your eyes, but to me, she's nothing. Truly worthy of a fallen aristocrat, deep in debt but still speaking with that kind of confidence. I didn't bother arguing with him. I said, cut the crap. What do you want? If you don't say it, I'm hanging up. The code, Makoto Ito yelled. He said. What's your home password? The one for the place in North City, the weird string of numbers. Who can remember that? Chapter 3. The password for the house in North City was set by Willow, 486. It was also the lock screen password for her phone. All these years, it had never changed. I once asked Willow what those 3 numbers meant. Willow avoided my eyes and said, "It doesn't mean anything. I just said it randomly." For a long time, I actually believed her. One day, on a whim, I typed those 3 numbers into my phone using the old T9 input method. The letters that appeared made me freeze. It spelled Ito. I hung up the phone without a word and tossed it aside. Just as I poured myself another glass of alcohol, Willow walked out wrapped in a towel. She was still drying her hair when I handed her a document. She looked at it suspiciously. "What is this?" I said. "Divorce agreement. Sign it." Willow stared at me coldly and tried to walk past me toward the wine cabinet. I lifted my hand and flipped the entire table of dishes over. The clattering noise was especially harsh in the middle of the night. Willow's face flushed red as she shouted sharply. "What do you want from me? Just because I went traveling with Makoto, you want a divorce?" I let out a cold laugh. I said, "Who do you think you are? Don't overestimate yourself. This divorce agreement, you either sit down and sign it calmly right now, or I'll ruin you completely, and then you'll sign it." Willow bit her lip and threw the towel onto the floor in anger. She said, "Unbelievable." She turned to go upstairs again, but I opened my mouth. "Makoto called just now. He said he couldn't reach you. He doesn't know the house password and can't get inside." Willow immediately stopped in her tracks. She frowned. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" "Did you tell him the password?" I replied. "Why would I tell him?" I said it coldly. Willow's frown deepened. She said, "Makoto only came to ask us for help. Why are you acting like this?" After saying that, she hurried upstairs to change clothes, but I rushed up faster than she expected and kicked her to the ground. The moment she fell, I pinned her down, twisting her arms behind her back. Willow struggled and snapped. "George, what are you doing?" I bent down close to her and slapped the divorce papers onto her face. I said, "Sign the divorce agreement. Otherwise, forget about leaving the house. Let your beloved Makoto wander the streets for all I care." This time, Willow was silent for a long while. Finally, she said, "You know what I hate most about you? It's that violence is the only thing you ever know." I had nothing to say. Chapter 4. What she said made it sound like I was some domestic abuser, but she wasn't entirely wrong. My relationship with Willow is complicated. During the poorest years of my life, we lived one upstairs and one downstairs, yet we didn't say a single word to each other. My father was weak-willed. After being tricked by a woman and losing everything, he jumped off a building. My grandfather, devastated, taught me to be a real man. Since I was little, he made me learn boxing from the uncle downstairs. That uncle was a boxing coach, muscles everywhere, but he had a sickly daughter, someone he protected like a fragile princess nestled in his palms. That daughter was Willow, and that man was her father. When we were kids, I played with Willow, protected her, said she was mine, someone under my wing, and I kept her under that wing for 10 years, until my grandfather passed away, and her father died. We became 2 kids with nobody to rely on. We should have held onto each other tightly, warmed each other, but strangely, and without any specific reason, she started distancing herself from me. I wasn't stupid. I felt the unwelcome coldness, so I stopped trying to stick my warm face to her cold back. She had good grades, a pretty face, but she was aloof and weak-bodied, unable to fit in with anyone. In middle school, jealousy took root, and some girls began bullying her. I overheard a girl telling several delinquent guys from outside school, "That bitch is so annoying. Why don't we just break one of her fingers?" Willow's fingers, the fingers she used to read, to write, to change her life. I followed them and used the methods Willow's father taught me to give them a harsh lesson. I got injured too, but it didn't matter. My skin is thick, I can take it. With my backpack slung over my shoulder, I walked upstairs. Willow was waiting in the shadows, cheeks puffed with anger. She grabbed my wrist and dragged me to her home, took out the medical kit, and skillfully treated my wounds. That was the first time I stepped into her house since her father died. Willow's dad had been stabbed to death trying to save someone. With his skills, dealing with those few guys would have been easy, but one of them had a knife. The blade went into his stomach, was pulled out, and stabbed again. He didn't even hold on long enough to see Willow one last time. The person he saved moved away that night, disappearing without a trace. The murderer got sentenced but couldn't pay a single cent in compensation. Willow knelt in front of the grave, crying so hard she trembled, cursing that her father deserved it, that he was overestimating himself. She said the thing she hated most was people who only knew how to solve problems with violence. From that moment on, she didn't want to talk to me anymore. That day, She kept her head down while she treated the injuries on my hand. Her voice was soft and slow. She said, "George, don't fight anymore, especially not because of me." Chapter 5. Willow had never been treated like this by me before. She angrily signed her name at the end of the document. Then threw the divorce agreement onto the floor. She got dressed and slammed the door on her way out. I slept soundly, feeling quite pleased with myself. When I naturally woke up, I called a moving company and began packing things up. When Willow returned, the workers were carrying that huge oil painting out the door. "What are you doing? Who told you to touch that?" Willow got out of the car and jogged over, full of displeasure. The workers looked at each other, unsure. I slowly walked out. I said, "I did. What about it?" Willow bit her lip and snapped, "Are you sick or something?" But the next second, a man's voice came from behind her. "Isn't that my painting, Willow? So you were the one who bought it. Why didn't you tell me?" Makoto stepped out of the car, his gaze filled with delight as he looked at the painting. Willow stiffened and instinctively looked at me. I smiled faintly and said, "No, you're wrong. I bought it." I added, "I must have been blind back then, spent nearly 200,000 on this piece of trash. The more I think about it now, the more disgusting it feels." Back when Willow had just started her influencer career, I worked during the day and still helped her write scripts and edit videos at night. I was so busy I barely touched the ground. Yet I still made time to accompany her. She asked me to go with her to an art exhibition. I didn't understand art. I couldn't tell good from bad, but I noticed she stood in front of one oil painting for a long time. And when she walked away, she looked reluctant. So I spent a fortune to buy that painting as a birthday gift for her. Later, we moved many times. The houses got bigger and better, but the one thing we always took with us was that painting. I thought she treasured it, because it was a birthday gift from me, until she went to Hong Kong to film videos with Makoto. Makoto made a painting, and the signature in the corner was identical to the one on that oil painting. What does it feel like when your entire world is smashed into broken pieces? It's hard to describe. I only know that I squatted on the ground for a long time. My face drained of all color. My teeth clenched so hard I tasted iron. Chapter 6. My words clearly provoked Makoto. He gritted his teeth and charged toward me. He said, "What the fuck do you mean? Say that shit again if you've got the balls." I shrugged. "Trash, trash, trash." I said it 3 times. "So what?" Makoto was burning with rage. Willow tried to hold him back, but he was already losing control, shouting, cursing, trying to start a fight with me. But in the next second, Willow slapped him across the face. Makoto froze in disbelief. He gritted his teeth and said, "What's that supposed to mean? Whose side are you on?" He shook her off and turned to leave, but Willow grabbed his sleeve and wouldn't let go. Her tone was almost pleading. "We still have to meet the director later. Calm down. Okay, I'll explain everything to you in a minute. Just wait for me in the car, please." Makoto shot me a venomous glare. In the end, he swallowed his anger, turned around, and got into the car. Willow looked like she wanted to say something. I looked at her with a faint, mocking smile. I said, "Makoto doesn't know, but I do. You looked like you were stopping him, but actually you were afraid I'd hurt him. No wonder they say a virtuous wife keeps her husband out of trouble. But you're overthinking it. I won't touch him. Hurting myself just to injure him. Not worth it." Willow's expression froze for a moment. She said, "What nonsense are you talking about? I just felt some obligation because of our past. I wanted to help him a little. You don't have to project those filthy thoughts onto me and him." Hypocritical. That was the only word that came to mind. I let out a cold laugh. I said, "Is it that you don't want to marry him?" "No, it's that you're not worthy." Makoto came from a rich family. Back when Willow and I only had 5 yuan of daily allowance, he wore shoes that cost 30,000. A wealthy heir like him, someone we shouldn't even have had the chance to meet. Yet that year, he transferred to our school and studied there for a year. The rich prince took one look at Willow and liked her immediately. He said, "Hey, can I sit next to you?" Willow frowned. No. He tried again. "Can you teach me how to solve these problems?" Willow said, "I don't have time." He confessed, "Willow, I like you." Willow replied, "I don't like you." After being rejected repeatedly, the prince became furious. He started bullying Willow, pouring water over her test papers, dumping a bowl of soup onto her, mocking her plain clothes, accusing her of stealing his belongings. Willow told me not to interfere, but I went to Makoto anyway, warning him not to touch her again, or I wouldn't let it slide. That time, Willow got really angry. She forced me to apologize to Makoto and then helped him to the hospital. She told me, "Makoto is someone we can't afford to offend. Do you understand? We have to endure it. Endure until the day we no longer have to look at people's faces for survival." I always thought Willow hated Makoto, but people are complicated. There is no pure love, nor pure hate, always a mixture, a tangle of both. Willow ignored the workers bustling around the villa. picked up her documents, and turned to leave. She only left one sentence behind: do whatever you want. So of course, I did whatever I wanted. I threw away the oil painting, threw away our wedding photos, threw away the master bedroom bed. I even threw away Willow's closets full of clothes and handbags. The last truck carried away my belongings and left in a grand procession. That night, I lay on the sofa drinking until dawn, eyes open until the sky started to lighten before I finally fell asleep. When I woke up, a blanket was covering me, and the entire place had been cleaned up. I wasn't surprised. I didn't think I had sleepwalked or that a thief had broken in. The only person who would know where to find me was Willow. Sure enough, when I walked out of the bedroom, she was cooking noodles. Willow learns everything fast. Back in those years, when we were too poor to afford any ready-made food, she did everything herself, cooking rice, stir-frying, making soup. She could master anything after trying just once, and it always tasted good. I was the complete opposite. She could never understand. She'd say, "Can't you just follow the recipe? Why do you always improvise?" And I couldn't understand her either. I'd say, "It's just missing a scallion without it. So what? Do we really have to go by one?" Those chaotic days were full of the warmth and messiness of real life. But thinking back now, it feels like something from a previous lifetime. She said, "You're up, go brush your teeth, wash your face, and eat breakfast." I didn't move. I said, "This place is premarital property. From now on, don't come here anymore." Willow paused, the hand stirring the noodles freezing midair. She turned off the stove, shut off the vent, and turned around. She asked me, "I can promise you that I will never betray you. I married you. What else are you still dissatisfied with?" Chapter 7. This is exactly what I'm dissatisfied with. She thinks that marrying me is the greatest blessing in the world for me. I laughed and said, "Well, then I must have truly wronged you." When we were 18, we got into college. Willow majored in fashion design and worked part-time as a styling model. I didn't have as many clever ideas as she did, so I sold small items to earn profit margins, and later worked as a sparring partner. In sophomore year, she gained some recognition and became more ambitious. I rented a storefront outside the school and opened a gym, becoming a little boss myself. During the second semester of sophomore year, she opened an online shop selling women's clothing, but due to the high return rate, she ended up losing everything. I cashed out everything in my store, took all my savings, and helped her pay off the debt. At 20, you never lack the courage to start all over again. She said she would never let me down. I said I would make sure she lived a good life. After college, I wrote programs and software, and started a business with a few partners. She wanted to start live stream sales and needed initial capital. Once again, I covered her, planned strategies for her, and 5 years later, she finally carved out a place for herself. In these 7 years, I supported her for the first 3. In the following 2, she transformed into a successful woman and even wanted to film short dramas portraying a powerful female lead. Once at a high school reunion, they played Truth or Dare. Willow chose Truth. The question was, if you had another chance, would you choose George or Makoto? A question that left me a little stunned, my whole body tensing up, but Willow made her choice immediately. She held my arm and said without hesitation, "Of course George." 100 times, it would still be our George. Later, her best friend asked her, "Really?" At that time, the girls were chatting on the rooftop. Willow didn't bring her phone, so I went to deliver it to her. I happened to hear her say, "Makoto needs someone whose background matches his. I come from such a poor family. Nothing would ever come of it." Her friend asked, "Then what about George?" She said, "Well, even though he's a good man, how should I put it? Back then, I had such low self-worth that George's little favors could easily keep me in line." It was a very strange feeling. Even now, when I think about it, I don't feel like the person standing there listening was really me. It was more like I was an audience member watching a scene of someone eavesdropping on stage. Not hurt, not embarrassed, completely numb, without any emotion. I didn't question Willow, nor did I bring it up. I simply lived normally for 3 months. So normal that when I tried to recall it later, I couldn't even remember what I was doing or thinking during those 3 months. I didn't understand why. At first, I didn't understand at all. It was only much later that I learned the term, dissociation. When people face extreme, unbearable pain, the mind activates a self-protection mechanism. Like a switch, it temporarily cuts off the connection between the person and the source of pain, preventing the psyche from collapsing entirely. That must have been what happened to me. Grandpa said, "Live like wild grass. Even if the blow is fatal, as long as there's a breath left, you can rise again from the ashes." I began rebuilding myself. First the body, then my abilities, and finally my mindset. I worked out, practiced boxing, and entered competitions. I poured myself into work again and expanded my career once more. The old me had little ambition. Once my startup succeeded, I grew comfortable. I even began planning for retirement early. But now I was getting busier, and the emptiness and confusion disappeared completely. It's true, once you have money, you avoid countless detours and earn even more money. In less than 2 years, the revenue from my new business grew more than 5-fold. And when someone charges forward relentlessly, their thinking spreads like wild vines, quickly forming a complete structure of its own. It was around that time that I began severing, one by one, all the strings Willow still had attached to me. Chapter 8, I said. Willow, I just want to live a few peaceful days. We're probably the kind of people who can share hardship but can't share prosperity. Whatever you and Makoto want to do, go ahead, just don't involve me. I'm serious about the divorce. See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. And now, get out of my house. With every word I said, Willow's anger flared higher. She screamed hysterically. I've said it 1,000 times, there's nothing going on between me and Makoto. What do you need before you finally believe me? Emotions are contagious. Originally, I was still fairly calm, but her yelling set me off too. Thinking about her filming those short dramas with Makoto, I said, do you really think the only reason I've tolerated you two for this long is because I have a good temper? Think about it, poor Makoto must have it hard. He can't play a domineering CEO in real life, so he has to act it out every single moment just to get a taste of it. But for the former rich young master, the one who used to live in luxury, bowing and scraping to others must feel pretty awful, I said. But what if this hard-earned opportunity of his gets ruined by me? What if I publicly said you two were having an affair? I didn't. Willow wanted to say something, but I cut her off. No need to explain so much to me. If I don't see you at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, save all your explanations for the public instead. Willow left 2 hours ago. Makoto called me 2 hours after that. Very blunt, he gave me an address and said, let's meet and talk. I stared at the call record that lasted less than 5 seconds, stayed silent for a long time, then blocked and deleted his number. But Makoto has always been arrogant. He went straight to my company, barged into my office, and ordered, tell George to come see me. I was warming up when my coach called. He asked how he should handle it. I told him not to worry about it and then called Willow. She didn't pick up. I curled my lips and called Willow's assistant instead. President Wong, what can I do for you? She asked. I said, tell Willow to tell Makoto to behave himself. If he keeps causing trouble, I'll leak everything to the media. Not long after, Makoto stormed out. Before leaving, he even smashed one of my coffee mugs. I could already guess what he wanted to say to me anyway. Probably the same old insults, calling me a loser, saying he never cared for Willow, saying someone with a dirty heart sees everything as dirty. He said it so many times that even he believes it now. Chapter 9. I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau at exactly 8 o'clock. I waited for half an hour, but there was no sign of Willow. I called her. Before I could speak, her displeased voice came through. She said, I'm on the way. Wait a bit. So I waited another hour. Just when I was about to explode, Willow finally arrived. But 2 people stepped out of the car. I watched as Makoto got out with an impatient expression. While opening the car door for Willow, he scolded her. I don't even know why you're rushing. You twisted your ankle. Does it hurt? Let me see. He leaned toward her. Willow pushed him away, stepping back, and turned her head to glance at me. Maybe my expression looked too terrible. Willow pressed her lips tightly. She said, all right, it doesn't hurt anymore. Didn't you say you had something to tell George? Makoto froze mid-movement. I couldn't see his full expression, but even from just half his face, it was obvious he didn't look happy. Then he turned toward me. He said, George, you really don't have to be so petty. I've said it 100 times, there's nothing going on between me and Willow. If you want a divorce, fine, just leave me out of it. I'm not taking the blame. I just don't get it. He frowned, eyes full of disdain. Is it that in your mind, men and women can only have romantic involvement and nothing else? Figures. People with dirty hearts see everything as dirty. The more incompetent someone is, the more suspicious they become. Try looking for the problem in yourself for once. I didn't respond to him. I lowered my head and scrolled through my phone. My obvious distraction made Makoto very unhappy. He said, George, I'm talking to you. The next second, Willow's phone chimed with a notification. I lifted my head. I said, you two really think that just because I haven't done anything to you, I'm scared of you? No, I just don't feel like wasting time on either of you. Now, I pointed at Makoto. I said, you, get back in the car. Then I pointed at Willow. I said, you, come inside with me and get the divorce. You, Makoto was furious and looked like he was about to make a move, but Willow grabbed him again. Her face had never looked this bad. She clutched her phone so tightly her fingertips had gone pale. And the reason was simple. I had just sent her a photo and a video. In the photo, Willow was wrapped in a towel, and Makoto was carrying her in his arms. The video was even more interesting. In a hotel room, Willow, back to the camera, took off her dirty jacket. Makoto's tie was loose, and he pulled the curtains shut. She bit her lip. This video, how did you get it? Willow asked, her voice trembling. Did you hire someone to film it? I shook my head calmly. No, I said. But the person who filmed it came to me first. He asked for $4 million. I didn't want to pay, so I gave him your contact info instead. Makoto panicked. We didn't. I ignored him and kept my eyes on Willow. I said, whether you did or didn't doesn't matter. You wouldn't have paid that $4 million if there was nothing. Maybe they really didn't sleep together. Who knows? But it doesn't matter. There's no way to prove innocence with something like this, and a scandal is far more damaging than $4 million. I said, I didn't expose it because you're my wife. A shake in the stock price would cost me money. But Willow, don't push me. After that, I walked toward the elevator. The elevator went from the 3rd floor down to B1. When the doors opened, Willow had already followed. She didn't say another word, silent the whole way. We took a number and waited. The staff asked, are you certain you want a divorce? I said, yes. Willow's voice followed. Yes, 24 years of ties, 5 years of marriage, and a child who came and went almost instantly. All of it finally came to an end. Walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I looked up at the sky. At that moment, my eyes stung a little, a sudden surge of emotion. I didn't even know what it was for. Very suddenly, I got into my car, drove around aimlessly, got on the highway, and sped all the way back to the city where Willow and I used to live. I went to the cemetery to visit my grandparents' graves, then sat for a while in front of Willow's father's tomb. That tall man once told me, George, I'm grateful you can protect Willow, but first, you must protect yourself. Since I was young, I never understood my grandfather, why he forced me to live according to his expectations, why he disciplined me so strictly, made me train nonstop, and never allowed me to complain or say I was tired. Even when I got hurt, crying wasn't allowed. He mocked me. Useless. Why are you crying like a woman? His extremity once pushed me into full rebellion against him. Until that day, because a girl forgot her umbrella, I lent her mine and walked home in the rain. The grandfather who had always been stoic and steady completely exploded for the first time and hit me. Then he pulled me upright again, and when he looked at me, every emotion was buried deep beneath his eyes. He said, you can lend your umbrella to someone else, but only on the condition that you don't get soaked yourself. You should know how to respect women, but you must not let a woman control your thoughts, and you must never ignore your own character and dignity. He closed his eyes for a moment, then slowly continued. I won't be around much longer. I can't accompany you for many more days. What will you do in the future? Don't follow your father's path. Don't ruin your own life. His son. He had never wished for his son to become someone extraordinary. He only wanted him to live well, to live as a man with dignity. But in the end, he never even got to see him again. His biological son, weak-willed, without opinions of his own. For a woman, he gave everything, the bride price, the car, the house. She took whatever she wanted, and when he was drained dry, she kicked him aside. Eventually, he walked to the rooftop and ended his life. My grandfather only wanted his son's son to live as a man with dignity, I think. I didn't disappoint him, but I did disturb his peace for a long time, always coming to him with worries. But now it's different. For the first time, I feel, truly, unbelievably good. Chapter 10. Willow and I spent some time working through the division of our assets. Everything that needed to be transferred was transferred, and everything that needed to be reassigned was reassigned. When the divorce agreement was first drafted, the lawyer had already told me, if you want speed, you can be a bit lenient with the assets. If you want to maximize your interests, it'll take time. I thought about it for a long time before finally choosing a division that was relatively fair. When Willow signed the papers back then, she didn't read them carefully. When she later went back to read the document, she stayed silent for a long time. She pressed her lips together and said, no wonder you're such a cold-blooded, ruthless businessman. I laughed. I didn't shortchange you, she said. That's not what I meant. My work got busier and busier. My contact with Willow became less and less. Makoto had joined a production crew, but he was incredibly difficult to work with. Every day he bossed everyone around. If you didn't know better, you'd think he was the investor. David told me this during a dinner gathering. He was our classmate, and also one of the funders of that drama. David sighed helplessly. This Makoto, didn't he used to bully Willow all the time back in the day? How did those two end up together? I took a sip of my drink and smiled as I said, what you can't have always seems enticing, and what you can't get always seems better. Love, it's a destructive thing, and somehow, I had become the one she couldn't have. That day, Willow suddenly called me. She said, honey, my stomach hurts so much. Can you come keep me company? I had been dozing in the back seat of the car. Her call woke me, and irritation surged. I snapped. If you're sick, go see a doctor. What are you calling me for? The next second, the car braked sharply. The The female secretary beside me lurched forward with a small gasp. Willow paused for a few seconds and asked, "Where are you? What are you doing?" I ignored her and hung up. 2 days later, her assistant called in the early hours of the morning. "President Wang, Willow is drunk. She won't let me approach her. Could you come pick her up?" I stared at the ceiling for a long time, then replied with just a few words, "Can't pick her up." That afternoon, Willow called again. Her voice sounded weak. She said, "The doctor asked if I have any medication allergies." I don't know. In that moment, a sense of wrongness finally hit me. I didn't speak. I could hear her soft breathing on the other end. It had been a long time since we'd shared such a quiet moment. She was busy. I was busy. Whenever we spoke, it was always about something important, never one unnecessary word. People say the more unimportant chatter a couple shares, the happier their relationship is. What is a couple? It's two people who are willing to waste time together, even if it's boring, and still feel content. But something that simple was impossibly difficult for Willow and me. I said, "Willow, if you keep contacting me like this, it'll make me think you regret it." Her breathing paused for a second, then it suddenly became rapid. She shouted, "What do you mean regret? I never wanted a divorce. You're the one who insisted. You're the one who forced this." I laughed softly. "Yes." My voice deepened. "I forced it," I said. "But isn't it strange? We were husband and wife, and yet I could still control you through Makoto." I continued. "You don't have any allergy history. Unless it's absolutely necessary, stop contacting me." Chapter 11. David held a banquet for his son's 100-day celebration, and I was on the guest list. By the time I arrived, the event had already started. I handed David the gift, and he dragged me to chat for quite a while, because he still had other guests to entertain. He pulled over a girl and introduced her to me. He said, "My buddy," then turned to me and said, "This is my cousin. She's single. You two talk for a bit." After that, he walked away, leaving just the two of us staring at each other in awkward silence. Once I regained my composure, I politely raised my glass to her. I said, "My name is George. How should I address you?" She pressed her lips together slightly and said, "Anna Sue." She was an empathetic girl, very good at keeping a conversation flowing. Within just a few exchanges, we were already talking comfortably. When she heard that I owned several gyms, she tilted her head and said, "My neck and shoulders have been uncomfortable lately. Are there any suitable exercises?" I put down my glass and said, "I can check your pulse. Do you mind?" Her eyes widened. "You know how to do that?" I replied, "Just a little. Many clients need physical conditioning alongside their workouts, so I had hired a traditional Chinese medicine doctor to consult at the gym. I studied under him for a while. Traditional Chinese medicine emphasizes observation, listening/smelling, inquiry, and pulse taking. For me, the first 3 steps were enough. The last step, taking the pulse, was mostly for show. I couldn't detect major issues, but superficial symptoms, yes. Just like with Anna, her pulse was tight and tense, with the left guan pulse tight but weak, no strength when pressed. Switch sides. On the right guan pulse, it was deep and thin. I said, "You've been staying up pretty late recently, Miss Anna. Liver qi stagnation. Nothing serious, but right now, headache." Anna's eyes widened, clear surprise. "Exactly," she said, giving me a thumbs up. She added, "President Wang, impressive. I do have a bit of a migraine, but it's not serious." I looked around, then said, "Let's find a quieter place. I can massage it for you. It won't solve the problem, but it'll relieve it." She said, "Okay." We were about to walk toward the lounge when suddenly someone grabbed me. I turned around. It was Willow. She was frowning, her expression hostile as she stared at Anna. I asked, "Do you need something?" She said, "Yes." Anna looked at me and asked, "Should I give you two some space?" I smiled lightly and said, "One moment," but Willow had already pulled me aside. I said impatiently, "What is it?" She asked, "Who is that woman?" She wasn't answering the question I asked, and that told me she was here to pick a fight. When I turned to leave, she grabbed my sleeve again. I looked at her, my expression dark. I said, "Willow, you can't have this and also have that. You can't expect everything in the world to belong to you." In that instant, I saw confusion and helplessness flicker in her eyes. Chapter 12. That night, Anna caught a ride with me, and I drove her home. I knew Willow's car had been following behind us the whole time. Anna asked if I wanted to go upstairs for a bit. I declined, but we still exchanged contact information. I didn't go straight home. I pulled over by the roadside and parked. Before long, Willow slowly walked toward me. She said, "George, let's talk." I didn't know what there was left for us to talk about, or whether there was anything worth talking about at all. She opened her mouth, just about to say something when Makoto suddenly rushed out from somewhere. He grabbed Willow and demanded, "Why aren't you answering my calls?" Willow looked confused. "What are you doing here?" Makoto said. "I should be asking you, why are you with him?" Willow said. "Were you following me?" Makoto snapped. "So what if I was following you? If you weren't doing anything shady, what would you be afraid of?" "Willow, you're the one who insisted on being some kind of saint, talking about saving me, begging me to act with you, and in the end, all it did was make me bow and scrape to everyone every single day. Is that the salvation you were talking about? Now I'm in trouble. Where are you?" "Shut up." The veins at Willow's temples pulsed. Every word Makoto said made her hands, hanging at her sides, clench tighter and tighter. Every word of his suffocated her. Then she heard the sound of a car door closing behind her. She turned around abruptly. I looked into the rearview mirror without expression, started the engine, and drove away. Chapter 13. Makoto had gotten himself into trouble, because he always acted superior and constantly bossed the production crew around. The director finally had enough and decided to replace him. Makoto flew into a rage and fought with the director on the spot. Looking at the clear images in the photos, I said over the phone, "Send them out. Leave it as a cliffhanger. Let everyone guess his identity first." I had long known that divorce wasn't easy, so I needed to land a strike that hit right at the center. Makoto appeared at the perfect timing. Once I had leverage over him, I had leverage over Willow. Soon, the news headline, "Low-tier actor causing chaos on set," shot into the trending list. Among the discussions, two guesses dominated. First, that this small-time actor was fearless and unafraid of authority. Second, that he must have a powerful background. Before long, crew members from the same production came out accusing this actor. No acting skills, couldn't take criticism, arrogant, tyrannical, and once even threw a boxed meal at a staff member. I quietly waited for Willow's reaction, but 24 hours passed, and she said nothing. So, amid everyone's speculation, the second wave of clues was released. Inside a car, a woman eating cherries, a man extending his hand, catching the pit she spat out. Very quickly, the woman's identity was uncovered, Willow. Her profile followed shortly after, including the fact that she was married, and that I was her husband. This time, her response came quickly. "Just friends." I refuse malicious speculation and reserve the right to pursue legal action. At the same time, I released my statement, "Already divorced." Instantly, speculation exploded everywhere. That was when Willow called. She asked, "Why?" I tapped my fingers lightly on the table and didn't deny anything. I said, "Because I'm not happy. When you found out the Ito family had gone bankrupt, you made two decisions. First, to go see Makoto Ito. Second, to get rid of our child. So I also made two decisions. First, to divorce you. Second, to make sure you two feel some pain as well." Willow hung up abruptly. Then came the third wave of leaks. A video. Willow and Makoto entering the same hotel and not coming out all night. Cheating scandals, messy relationships, tangled love and marriage. These things never fail to stir discussion, but their impact is limited. It wouldn't destroy Willow or Makoto completely, but it was enough to make them hurt, just like I did back then, when I unexpectedly found the prenatal test report she had hidden, when I learned she was already pregnant, and right around that time, the Ito family suddenly went bankrupt. Willow learned the news and, without a single moment of hesitation, asked her assistant to book a flight. That day was my grandfather's death anniversary. With my heart already dead and silent, I asked her if she was really going to see Makoto. She complained, "Am I supposed to just stand by and watch someone die?" Watch someone die? Who died? No one. No. She had simply decided to let our child die. Chapter 14. A single scandal turned Willow into a street rat everyone wanted to beat. Banned across the entire internet. Her online shop shut down. Her career collapsed. And it also left Makoto with no way out. Makoto confronted me, shouting, "George, you're pushing us to a dead end. You've gone too far. What gives you the right to do this to me? What makes you better than me? You only got a little more luck than I did." But George, in Willow's heart, the person she loves has always been me. You'll never compare to me. Looking at his face twisted with rage, I asked mockingly, "Did Willow refuse to let you touch her? I know her. She rejected you, didn't she?" My words hit Makoto right in his sore spot. He swung his fist at me. I didn't dodge. I lifted my foot and kicked him in the knee just as he closed in. Makoto let out a scream and collapsed to the ground, his face pale, his eyes unfocused for a moment. He gritted his teeth and said, "You dare hit me?" I said, "When did I hit you? Weren't you the one kneeling down to admit your mistake?" He cursed. "George, damn it, ah." I picked up a chair beside me. As he roared, I raised it. As he screamed, I lowered it until it hovered right beside his ear. His eyes were filled with terror, his whole body trembling. I looked at him without expression. I said, "When I hit someone, I don't hold back. Don't provoke me." When Willow arrived, Makoto was on the ground, filthy and kneeling. He tried to lunge toward her when he saw her, but Willow avoided him. With a look of disgust, she waved her hand and told her assistant to take Makoto away. Makoto clearly felt unwilling, but he at least remembered the pain. He didn't say another word. Willow looked at me. She looked worn out, exhausted, her complexion poor. Seeing her like that, if I said I didn't feel even a little pleased, that would be a lie. For a moment, my whole mood loosened, as if something inside had finally clicked into place. Willow understood me. After all, she lowered her eyes and let out a self-mocking smile. She said, "Do you hate me that much?" Sitting in my office chair, twirling a pen, I said, "It's not hatred, not that serious. I simply find you disgusting." I did hate her once, but later, I realized hatred was too strong, too intense to describe what I truly felt. Disgust was more accurate. Clearly, Willow understood the damage of that word. Her hand trembled for a second. Even her voice turned hoarse. She said, "I never wanted to betray you," I said, "but in the end, you were still going to end up with Makoto." She said, "I would never." She sounded confident. I shrugged and said, "None of my business. You can leave," she said in a trembling voice. "Honey," I replied. "Get out." In truth, I wasn't sure whether Willow would ever let Makoto touch her. I was bluffing, but the result of my bluff was exactly what I wanted. Of course, I didn't care whether anything happened between them or not. I simply wanted to watch the chaos, watch them both suffer. Now I think Willow wouldn't let Makoto touch her for quite a while. And Makoto? Would he get anxious? Would he do something stupid? Good show. There's still plenty of it to come. Chapter 15. Of course, watching the show was only part of life. I was quite busy, too. During this time, Anna and I met for 2 meals. David sent me a string of exclamation marks. "Are you trying to become my brother-in-law?" I replied with a string of question marks. I said, "You're overthinking. We're just friends." Of course, no one would believe that. That day, as usual, I drove Anna home. She asked if I wanted to come upstairs. I smiled and shook my head. I said, "No, not today. I've still got a lot to deal with. Need to work overtime tonight." I wasn't stupid. I was a divorced man in my 30s, and she was a much younger girl being this proactive. There had to be a reason. It was an hour and a half later when I got home. Stepping out of the elevator, I saw Willow waiting at my door. She was leaning against the door, squatting on the floor, long legs folded up, looking somewhat pitiful. I looked at her for a while and nudged her with my foot. She swayed slightly and lifted her head. Eyes hazy. I said, "You have a fever." Willow collapsed in front of my door. Between ignoring her and kicking her while she was down, I held onto the last shred of conscience and notified her assistant. I dragged her aside and went into my apartment. About 40 minutes later, I heard noise. Someone must have come to take her away. I shrugged. Whatever. A fever isn't going to kill anyone. But this incident seemed to hit Willow especially hard. Wearing a hospital gown, she rushed in front of me again. Her eyes were red, streaked with blood. She said, "You wouldn't treat me like this. George wouldn't treat me like this. He would never ignore me." That line was subtle. She said George. She said he, as if she weren't talking about me at all. But honestly, I often felt the same. The George who silently protected Willow. The George who cleared obstacles for her so she could study in peace. Whenever I thought of him now, I felt like he was an idiot. And the George who suffered so painfully because of Willow. How could I have been so weak, so stupid, so embarrassing? But that was me. And yet, I couldn't even empathize with that version of myself anymore. Still, it didn't stop me from lowering my head slightly, feeling a faint sense of loss, as I said, "It's too late, Willow. There's too much between us. We can't go back." Pain. Willow was in pain. The pain in her eyes, the heavy breaths, the way her waist almost bent from how much it hurt. She said, "I won't contact Makoto anymore. I won't see him again." It sounded like a promise she was making to me, but she broke it, because the very next day, Makoto slept with her. He sent the photos to my phone. Makoto bragged triumphantly. "She's mine now." I just laughed. Makoto was finished. Willow. I once thought she was someone with independent thinking, someone different from everyone else. Later, I realized there was one word that summed her up perfectly: pretending. She openly disliked Makoto, rejected his confession, yet privately cherished feelings for him, unable to forget him for years. Was she lovesick? If she were truly lovesick, she wouldn't have ended up with me. We walked through everything together, helping her grow, supporting her career. But when she succeeded, she decided her success came from her own hard work, and what I gave was nothing more than trivial favors. She enjoyed everything good I gave her, yet nostalgically longed for Makoto. So who did she really love? I used to wonder that too. Later, I realized she probably didn't love anyone. She only loved herself, and Makoto, an arrogant, Vengeful rich kid. After falling from grace, even Willow grew tired of him. And just like when he was younger, he would inevitably start retaliating again. Dog biting dog, nothing but a mouthful of fur. I hummed a tune while packing my luggage, preparing for a business trip to the capital. The trip would last half a month, mainly for training and exchanges. But before my schedule even ended, Willow did something huge. She took evidence to the police and reported Makoto for rape. When I heard the news, I was in an excellent mood. As expected, Makoto was going to prison. David was the one who told me. By the time I returned from the capital, Makoto had already been detained. Handling any case takes time, but Willow held on tightly to her accusation. Filled with hatred, the entire process, from filing the case, investigation, indictment, to trial, took nearly a year. During that period, countless people came to me asking for updates. I blocked all of them with neither softness nor force, just enough to keep them away. My life continued as usual. The entanglement between Willow and Makoto became nothing more than idle gossip. The only thing noteworthy was a message Willow sent me during that year. She asked me whether I ever regretted meeting her. I didn't give her an answer, but I thought about it for a long time. I don't regret it. Those days were painfully hard, so cold it felt like being soaked in icy water. Even breathing carried a chill. And loneliness was an even harsher thing, like vines wrapping around your neck, suffocating you. In those days, I desperately needed someone. Even if that person just sat beside me and said a few meaningless words, it made everything feel a little less unbearable. She wasn't good later on. Those flaws pierced like needles, hurting at the slightest touch, but her companionship back then was real. Her presence gave me slivers of air to breathe. So what was there to regret? At least during that period of life, she was the one who made the days feel not quite so bitter.